The cell was dark and cold. The walls were made of black stone that swallowed all light. A single lamp flickered above, making shadows crawl across the floor. Inside the small prison sat a young alien girl named Lyra. Her hands and feet were locked in heavy chains, and every movement made a sharp sound that echoed in the silence. Outside her cell, guards in steel armor stood with glowing spears. They did not speak much, but when they did, their voices carried fear. "She has 3 suns left," one guard whispered. "Yes. When the 3rd sun sets, her execution begins," another answered quickly, almost afraid of his own words. Lyra lowered her head. She had heard those whispers many times. Her fate was sealed. No trial, no defense, just a sentence passed by the Empire. They called her dangerous. They called her cursed. But she was only a girl, thin and pale, her eyes shining like silver fire in the dark. The prison itself was built on a lonely mountain. From the outside, it looked like a black fortress covered in storm clouds. Few dared to climb the path to its gates. Inside, the air was heavy, and the silence was always broken by the sound of chains, footsteps, or screams of other forgotten prisoners. But Lyra was not like the others. She was special. Everyone knew it, and that was why everyone feared her. Far away, in the trading district of the same planet, a human named Daniel walked among alien merchants. He was an off-world trader, one of the few humans allowed to work inside the Empire's territory. His job was simple: move goods, fix machines, and return home. But that day he noticed something strange. Merchants were quiet. Soldiers moved in groups, watching the streets closely, and every time Daniel asked what was happening, people turned away. Finally, an old alien with wrinkled skin whispered to him, "Do not ask. The girl in the prison is cursed. Speak her name and you invite death." Daniel frowned. "A girl? What girl?" The old alien shook his head. "Forget it, human. You are a guest here. Do your work and leave." But Daniel could not forget. That night, while resting in his small rented room, he kept thinking. A girl in prison. Execution in 3 days. Why was everyone so afraid? What had she done? His curiosity grew. And curiosity is a dangerous thing in the Empire. The next evening, Daniel walked near the prison mountain. The air there was colder, the sky darker. Drones floated above the walls, their red eyes scanning the ground. Soldiers marched along the gates carrying long rifles that hummed with deadly power. Daniel pretended to be just a traveler passing by, but his eyes searched for a glimpse of the girl. He saw nothing at first, only the black walls and the glowing gates. Then, by chance, a light flickered inside one of the small windows. Daniel stopped. His heart beat fast. Behind the bars, he saw 2 silver eyes staring out into the night. It was her. For a moment, Daniel forgot the danger. Those eyes did not belong to a criminal. They were tired, yes, full of pain, yes, but also full of something else. Hope Lyra saw him too. She did not speak, but her gaze locked on his. In that short moment, Daniel felt something strange. A connection. A silent cry for help that pierced through the cold air. But then, footsteps. Guards were approaching. Their boots slammed against the stone path. Daniel quickly turned away and walked down the slope, trying to look calm. His chest pounded. If they had seen him looking at her, he might have been arrested on the spot. That night, sleep refused to come. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his small room. The girl's eyes haunted him. Why would the Empire fear a girl so much? Why call her cursed? The next morning, Daniel heard the merchants whisper again. "They will kill her in 3 suns," one muttered. "Good," another replied nervously. "Her kind must vanish." Daniel clenched his fists. Something felt wrong. He had worked under the Empire for years, and he knew how cruel they could be. But this sounded different. She was not a warrior. She was not a monster. She was just a girl in chains, and yet everyone acted as if she carried a storm inside her. Back in her cell, Lyra closed her eyes and tried not to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope always led to pain. She remembered her family, her people, her home world, all gone, burned by the Empire's fire. Now she was the last voice of a dead race. Her heart ached, but her chains reminded her of the truth. No one would come for her. No one ever did, but then she remembered the human. The brief look they shared through the bars. He was not afraid. He did not look away. That had never happened before. For the first time in years, a tiny spark of hope returned. Outside, in the shadows of the mountain path, Daniel made a choice. He would return. He needed to know who she was. He needed to know why she was chained, even if it meant risking his own life. The night after Daniel first saw the girl, the city did not feel the same. The streets looked normal, markets full of glowing lanterns, traders shouting prices, machines humming in the distance. But to Daniel, everything felt like a mask. Beneath the noise, he felt fear hiding in every corner. He noticed it when he asked questions. "Who is the girl in the mountain prison?" he whispered to a fruit seller. The seller's hands froze. His face turned pale. Without saying a word, the man dropped the fruit, packed up his stall, and left. Later, Daniel asked a group of workers at the repair station, "Do you know why the Empire wants her dead?" One worker spat on the ground and growled, "You're a fool, human. Don't speak of her. Don't even think of her. If the Empire hears you asking, you'll join her in chains." Daniel forced a smile and walked away, but his heart beat faster. If no one dared to speak, then the secret was bigger than he imagined. That night, the image of her eyes returned, silver glowing even through the bars. He sat at his table, turning a cup of cold water in his hands, and whispered to himself, "Why are you still in my head?" He should have ignored her. He should have kept to his work and left the planet as soon as the trade deals were done. That was the safe choice, the smart choice, but humans are strange creatures. When they are told to look away, they often look closer. The next evening, Daniel returned to the prison mountain. This time, he did not walk the open road. He moved through the shadows, climbing a hidden path he found near the cliffs. Stones crumbled under his boots and sharp wind cut across his face. He knew if a drone spotted him, he would not survive. At last, he reached a point where he could see into the prison yard. Guards marched back and forth, their spears glowing like fireflies in the dark. Daniel waited in silence, his breath shallow, until finally, he saw her again. Lyra was sitting on the ground, her chains heavy on her arms. She looked thinner than before, weaker, but her eyes still burned with that strange light. Daniel could not stop himself. He whispered softly, "Hey." Her head turned. She saw him in the shadows, half hidden behind the rocks. For a long moment, she only stared. Then her lips moved, but no sound came. He leaned forward. "Who are you?" he mouthed. Her lips formed a single word, "Run." Daniel's chest tightened. She was warning him to leave before the guards saw. But instead of running, he whispered back, "Why do they fear you?" Her eyes flickered with pain. She shook her head slowly as if to say, "You don't want to know." Suddenly, boots slammed against stone. A group of guards turned the corner, their torches glowing red. Daniel ducked low behind the rocks. His heart pounded in his ears. If they looked up, if the drones scanned the cliff, he would be finished. The guards passed slowly, their voices sharp. "Check every corner. Someone has been snooping around here," one said. Daniel held his breath, not daring to move. Lyra lowered her head, hiding her face, pretending to sleep. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, the guards marched away. Daniel waited until the last sound of their boots faded, then crawled back down the cliff. His hands shook. His back was wet with sweat. But instead of fear, something else now filled his chest. Determination. He had seen the truth in her eyes. She was not a monster. She was not cursed. She was a prisoner of lies. Back in the city, Daniel searched harder. He visited the old archives, a dusty hall where records were kept by scholars too tired to care. After hours of pretending to study trade reports, he found a restricted file. The title made his blood run cold. The Last of the Illyrians. The Illyrians. He remembered hearing that name once long ago. A race said to be destroyed by the Empire, wiped out to the last child. But the file confirmed something shocking. One survived. Her name was Lyra. The Illyrians were not warriors, but keepers of energy. They could shape raw power in ways no machine could. If even one survived, she could awaken that power again. That was why the Empire wanted her gone. Not because she was dangerous to others, but because she was dangerous to them. Daniel closed the file quickly, his hands trembling. Now he understood the fear. The Empire wanted silence. No one must know their secret, but now he knew. He walked out of the archive hall, his mind racing. He should run, leave the planet, return to safety, and forget. That was the only way to live. Yet when he closed his eyes, he saw her again. The silver eyes. The silent warning. The silent hope. His voice broke the silence of the street as he whispered to himself, "I can't leave her there." Inside her cell, Lyra shivered as cold wind blew through the bars. She thought of the human. Foolish human, why did he keep coming back? He did not know what it meant to stand against the Empire. He did not know the weight of her curse. But even as she told herself to forget him, a part of her heart refused. For the first time in years, she felt less alone. That night, Daniel stood at his window, staring at the mountain prison. His fists tightened. His decision was made. No matter the cost, he would find a way to reach her, even if it meant putting his own life on the line. The night air was sharp and cold. Clouds drifted over the moon, hiding the mountain prison in deep shadows. Daniel crouched near the cliff path, his hands pressed against the rough stone. His chest rose and fell quickly. Behind the black walls, he knew she was there, chained, waiting for death. And tonight he would risk more than before, he told himself. Just one question, just one answer, then I'll leave. But in truth, he already knew he would not leave. Curiosity had grown into something stronger. A fire he could not put out. A guard's footsteps echoed. Torches burned along the gates. Drones circled like hungry birds, their red eyes sweeping across the rocks. Daniel waited, counting the seconds, then moved quickly. He slipped through a narrow passage he had found the night before. His heart hammered. If even one drone caught a glimpse of him, he would vanish into the Empire's dungeons forever. At last he reached the wall with the barred window. He crouched low, whispering, "Lyra." Inside the cell, the girl lifted her head slowly. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You again?" she whispered back, her voice thin, carried by the wind. "Why?" Daniel leaned closer, keeping his voice low. "Because I need to know the truth. Who are you? Why does the Empire fear you?" For a long moment she was silent. Then her lips curved into a bitter smile. "You will die if you know. You should not be here." "I already risked death coming this far," Daniel said firmly. "Tell me." Chains rattled as she sat up straighter. Her eyes, though weak, held a strength that made Daniel's breath catch. "My name is Lyra. I am the last of the Illyrians." Daniel frowned. The word sounded heavy, old, like something pulled from the past. "Illyrian?" "Yes," she whispered. "A people the Empire destroyed. My people." Her voice cracked as she spoke, but she did not look away. "We were not warriors. We were guardians of the core flame, the energy that keeps worlds alive. The Empire feared it. They wanted it for themselves. When we refused to give it, they burned our cities. They killed everyone. My family and my friends, all gone. I am the last." Daniel felt the weight of her words press into his chest. He had heard rumors of the Illyrians, but most believed it was just legend. Yet here she was, living proof. "Then why keep you alive?" he asked. She lowered her head. "Because I carry what they fear most. The core flame lives inside me. It burns in my blood. If I release it, I can shatter armies, or heal entire worlds. To the Empire, I am not a girl. I am a weapon they cannot control. That is why they will kill me before the third sun sets." Silence stretched between them. The night wind whistled through the bars, carrying the sound of distant guards. Daniel's mind raced. A weapon inside her? A power that could destroy the Empire? If that was true, then everything he thought about this galaxy was about to change. He whispered, "Then why don't you use it? Why not escape?" Her laugh was soft, broken. "Do you think I haven't tried? The flame is strong, but my chains are stronger. They have bound me with ancient seals. If I try to break free, the seals will kill me first." Her silver eyes dimmed. "I am trapped. My fate is sealed. That is why I told you to run." Daniel's fists tightened. Something inside him rebelled at her words. "Fate sealed? No." He would not accept that. "You are not alone anymore," he whispered. "Not while I'm here." Her eyes widened, a flicker of surprise breaking through her despair. "You are only one man. What can you do against an empire?" Daniel leaned closer, his voice steady. "One man can still make a choice. One man can still stand." Suddenly, shouts echoed. Guards were moving closer. Torchlight spilled across the yard. Lyra's eyes grew sharp. "Go! If they find you, you'll die!" Daniel backed away into the shadows, his heart racing. But as he climbed back down the cliff, he whispered to himself, "I can't leave her here. Not like this." Hours later, Daniel returned to the city. The streets were quiet, but his mind was loud with thoughts. He could still feel her voice, her pain, her fire. The Empire wanted her gone because she carried hope, and hope was more dangerous to tyrants than any weapon. He sat at his small table, staring at the stolen map of the prison tunnels he had taken days before. His hands shook as he traced the paths. It was madness, pure madness. A single human against the strongest empire in the galaxy. And yet, as he looked at the map, he felt no fear, only resolve. Inside her cell, Lyra pressed her forehead against the cold stone wall. She whispered to herself, "Foolish human, you do not know the price." But deep inside, she felt something she had not felt in years. A spark. For the first time, she wondered, could he truly try to save me? The sun rose slowly over the mountain, painting the prison walls red. The countdown continued. 2 suns left until her execution, and somewhere in the city a human began planning the impossible. The Empire called the mountain prison unbreakable. Its walls were carved from living stone, its gates locked with codes older than most worlds, and its skies patrolled by silent drones. No prisoner had ever escaped. Not once. But Daniel sat in his room, staring at a stolen map of its tunnels, and whispered to himself, there has to be a way. He had 2 suns left. After that, the girl would be gone forever. The hook of danger pressed in from every side. Guards already watched him more closely. Twice that day, he noticed soldiers trailing him through the market. Once, a drone circled low over his head, scanning his face before flying off. The Empire knew someone was asking questions, and yet Daniel could not stop. He spread the map across his table. Thin lines showed the tunnels under the mountain, maintenance routes, water channels, and old paths sealed long ago. Most were blocked, but one narrow passage led near the lower cells. It was dangerous, full of collapse warnings, but it was the only chance. That night, he slipped into the shadows. His heart pounded as he moved through the back alleys carrying a small bag. Inside was everything he had managed to steal. A weak hacking device, a cutting tool, and a small sphere. A stolen EMP spark that could disable drones for a few seconds. Not much, but maybe enough. He reached the hidden entrance to the tunnels. A rusted gate covered in moss blocked the path. Daniel pressed the cutting tool against the lock, sparks flying as the metal gave way. Behind the gate stretched darkness. The smell of damp stone and rust filled the air. Daniel stepped inside. The tunnel was narrow and twisted. Water dripped from above. Every step echoed, making him pause, afraid the sound would carry to unseen ears. He moved carefully, checking the map in the dim glow of his lamp. The air grew colder, the walls tighter. Rats scurried past his boots, then voices. Daniel froze. Torchlight flickered ahead. Guards were patrolling even here. He pressed himself against the wall, holding his breath. 2 armored soldiers walked by, their boots splashing in the shallow water. The execution will be glorious, one said. The Empire will erase her name forever. Good, the other replied. That cursed blood must not survive another sunrise. Their footsteps faded. Daniel's fists tightened. He forced himself forward, silent as shadow. At last he reached the lower section of the prison. A wall of iron bars blocked his way. Beyond them, faint light glowed. He could hear chains clinking, a soft breath, and then her voice. You came back. Lyra's words were soft, but Daniel heard them clearly. Yes, he whispered through the bars. I found a way. There's a tunnel. If I can break these seals, I can get you out. Her silver eyes shone faintly in the dark. She shook her head. You don't understand. The seals are not simple locks. They are made with ancient power. If you touch them carelessly, they will kill us both. Daniel showed her the small hacking device. Then tell me how to break them safely. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Why risk your life for me? You are human. This is not your fight. Daniel met her gaze. Because humans don't abandon the innocent. Because if I walk away, I'll never forgive myself. Silence stretched. Finally, Lyra spoke. The seals bind my chains to the Empire's energy grid. You must cut the connection, but only for a few seconds. If the current flows back into me, it will burn me alive. Daniel nodded. Then I'll make sure that doesn't happen. She stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out through the bars. Her chained fingers brushed his hand, cold, fragile, but alive. Foolish human, she whispered. Maybe I'm foolish enough to succeed. Suddenly, alarms blared above. The ground shook with heavy boots. Daniel's heart jumped. They know someone is here. Go! Lyra hissed. If they catch you, it's over. But Daniel shook his head, his jaw tight. I'm not leaving. Not until you're free. The sound of guards grew louder. Torches flared in the tunnels. Daniel pressed the EMP sphere against the wall. It glowed blue, then burst in silence. All lights flickered. The chains on Lyra's wrist pulsed with weak sparks. For a few seconds, the grid faltered. "Now!" she cried. Daniel slammed the cutting tool against the chain seals. Sparks exploded, metal screamed, and the ancient locks cracked. Lyra gasped, pain shooting through her arms, but the seals broke one by one. The last chain snapped free. Lyra collapsed forward, breathing hard, her wrists raw but unbound. Daniel caught her, his voice urgent. "Can you walk?" She looked up at him, eyes blazing. "I can run." The tunnel roared with footsteps. Guards stormed closer. Daniel pulled Lyra to her feet, gripping her hand tight, and together they ran into the darkness. Alarms screamed across the mountain prison. Red lights flashed on the walls, painting the stone in blood-like color. The Empire had discovered what Daniel had done. "Prisoner loose. Human intruder." Voices thundered, boots pounded. Drones filled the air, their red eyes scanning the tunnels. Daniel's lungs burned as he dragged Lyra through the narrow passage. Chains still hung from her wrists, clinking with every step. She stumbled, weak from years in captivity, but her eyes shone bright. "Keep running," Daniel hissed. Behind them, torches blazed. Guards stormed after them, spears glowing with electric fire. The tunnel twisted and shook as alarms echoed louder. Lyra gasped, "We cannot outrun them forever." Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. "We don't need forever. Just long enough." Ahead, the passage split in two. Daniel chose the left path, ducking into shadows. The sound of rushing water grew louder until a dark river appeared, flowing through the rocks. "It leads out," Daniel said, pointing. But the moment they stepped closer, spotlights flared above. Two drones descended, guns unfolding from their sides. "Target locked," a mechanical voice announced. Blue bolts fired, smashing into the stone. Sparks rained around them. Daniel shoved Lyra against the wall. "Stay down!" He hurled the last EMP spark into the air. It burst in silence, waves of blue energy crackling outward. The drones froze, their red eyes flickering before they crashed into the river below. Lyra stared. "You risk everything for me." Again, Daniel forced a grin. "You'll get used to it." But there was no time to rest. Shouts filled the tunnels. Guards were almost upon them. Daniel pulled her toward the water. "We jump." Her silver eyes widened. It could lead anywhere. Anywhere is better than here. Together they leapt into the river. Cold water swallowed them, dragging them into the dark. The current was wild, smashing them against stone walls, pulling them deeper underground. Daniel fought to keep hold of Lyra's hand. She coughed, struggling to breathe, but refused to let go. At last, the river spat them out into an open cavern. They tumbled onto wet ground, gasping for air. Above, shafts of light cut through cracks in the stone. They were outside the prison walls, free, at least for now. But the Empire did not give up. Sirens howled across the skies. Searchlights swept the ground. Dozens of drones swarmed out of the fortress like angry wasps. Soldiers spread into the forests below the mountain. A voice echoed through the loudspeakers. "The prisoner and the human must not escape. Shoot to kill." Lyra shivered, her wet hair clinging to her face. "They will hunt us to the ends of the world." Daniel stood, pulling her up. "Then we keep moving." They ran into the forest. Branches cracked underfoot, leaves whipped against their faces. Behind them, the glow of searchlights cut through the trees. Lyra stumbled again, her legs weak. I cannot." Daniel caught her before she fell. He knelt, forcing her to look at him. "Listen, you survived chains. You survived years of silence. You can survive this too. Just a little longer." Her eyes searched his face. Slowly she nodded. "Then I will try." They pressed forward, weaving through roots and rocks. Suddenly, a beam of red light sliced across the trees. A drone spotted them. "Target located," it hissed. Daniel grabbed a fallen branch and hurled it at the machine. The impact knocked it off balance, but not enough. The drone steadied and charged its weapon. Before Daniel could move, Lyra raised her chained hand. Her eyes blazed silver. For a moment, the forest glowed. A burst of energy erupted from her, striking the drone midair. The machine exploded in a shower of sparks, crashing to the ground. Daniel froze, his mouth open. You still have power." Lyra trembled, her shoulders shaking. "Only a spark. The chains weakened me. But if I had more time..." He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We'll get you time." The forest shook with more soldiers arriving. Their voices cut through the trees. Surround them. Don't let them reach the hills. Daniel and Lyra broke into another sprint, lungs burning, hearts racing. Every sound, the crack of a branch, the buzz of a drone, the shout of a soldier, felt like death closing in. At last, the forest opened to a rocky slope. Far in the distance, Daniel could see the lights of the trade city. Safety was still far away, but it was hope. Almost there, he said, but then, a sharp whistle. A plasma bolt slammed into the ground near his feet, exploding dirt into the air. Guards had caught up. Dozens of them lined the ridge above, weapons glowing. Daniel pulled Lyra behind a boulder. His chest heaved, his mind racing. We can't outrun them anymore. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Then we fight. For a heartbeat, time stood still. The night air was filled with the sound of soldiers marching closer, the hum of drones circling above, and the faint pulse of energy burning in Lyra's blood. Daniel gripped the stolen cutting tool, holding it like a blade. Lyra lifted her chained hands, silver sparks dancing at her fingertips. They were surrounded, outnumbered, hunted, but they were not giving up. Not now. Not ever. The night was alive with danger. Soldiers surrounded the rocky slope, their weapons glowing like lines of fire in the dark. Drones hovered overhead, their red eyes locked on the two fugitives. Prisoner and human, surrender, a commander's voice thundered. There is no escape. Resist and you will die. Daniel stood in front of Lyra, holding the cutting tool like a sword. His arm shook, but his voice was steady. You'll have to kill me first. Lyra's breath came fast. Her chains rattled as she raised her hands. Silver sparks flickered at her fingertips, faint but real. The commander laughed, his voice echoing through a speaker. The flame inside her is broken. She is nothing now. End this, weapons charged. Blue light gathered in the barrels. The first shot screamed toward them. Daniel threw himself forward, but before the bolt could hit, a burst of silver energy exploded outward. The ground shook. The soldiers staggered back. The drone spun wildly in the air before crashing to the earth in burning pieces. When the smoke cleared, Lyra was standing tall, her eyes glowing like twin suns. Daniel stared at her, stunned. You're not broken. Lyra's voice was low, trembling with power. I am Illyrian. The core flame never dies. Her chains glowed white-hot, cracking under the pressure of her energy. With a scream, she tore them apart, the pieces falling to the ground in molten fragments. The commander shouted, "Fire!" Bolts of plasma filled the night. But Lyra lifted her hands and the blasts bent in the air, twisting away from her body like rivers diverted by stone. They slammed back into the soldiers, knocking many off their feet. The forest lit up with silver fire. Daniel shielded his eyes. Part of him was terrified. What kind of power was this? But another part felt awe. She was no longer a weak prisoner. She was something greater. Yet he saw the strain on her face. Every burst of power shook her body. Every blast left her weaker. She turned to him, her voice sharp. We must move. I cannot hold this forever. Daniel nodded, grabbing her hand. Together they ran down the slope as soldiers scrambled to recover. The chase did not end. More guards poured from the trees. More drones streaked through the air. The Empire was throwing everything at them now. Daniel and Lyra stumbled into an old cave near the hills. Inside, the air smelled of earth and dust. The cave twisted deep into darkness, hiding them from the searchlights outside. For a moment, silence returned. Daniel leaned against the wall, gasping for air. You saved us. Back there, you saved us. Lyra's shoulders shook. Her glow faded, leaving her pale and weak. No, I delayed them. The flame is strong, but it eats at me. Each time I use it, it burns away part of myself. Daniel's eyes hardened. Then we'll find another way. We'll use it only when we must. Her gaze met his. You don't understand. The flame is not just power. It is memory, life, soul. If I release too much, I will not survive. Outside, distant voices shouted. The Empire was still searching. Daniel clenched his fists. Then we make every second count. We'll find a way out of this world before they trap us again. But Lyra shook her head. Leaving this world will not end it. As long as I live, the Empire will hunt me. And now, they will hunt you too. Daniel gave a tired smile. Then let them. I faced worse than bullies in armor. She studied him, her silver eyes softening. You are strange, human. Most run from fire. But you run toward it, he shrugged. Maybe that's what makes us dangerous. Hours passed. The cave grew colder. Daniel kept watch while Lyra rested, her body curled against the wall. She looked fragile again, like the prisoner he had first seen behind the bars. But now he knew the truth. Fragile or not, she carried enough power to shake an empire, and the empire would never forgive them for this night. At dawn, the sound of engines filled the air. Daniel peeked outside the cave. Black ships hovered above the trees, their shadows crawling across the ground. Elite soldiers in dark armor poured out, their steps precise, their weapons humming with deadly force. Lyra woke and saw them. Her face tightened. Hunters, Daniel frowned. Hunters? They are not common soldiers. They are the Empire's best. They are trained to kill even those with the flame. Daniel gripped his tool. Then we don't fight them head on. We stay smart, but Lyra shook her head. You cannot hide from hunters. They will track us anywhere. Sooner or later, we must face them. Her silver eyes glowed again, though faintly. And when that time comes, you will see why the Empire fears me. Daniel stepped closer, his voice low. Then I'll stand with you, whatever it takes. For a long moment, Lyra simply looked at him. Then slowly she nodded. Outside, the hunters spread through the forest, their dark armor gleaming. The Empire was closing in step by step. Inside the cave, a human and an Illyrian prepared for the battle that would decide not only their survival, but perhaps the fate of many more. The ground shook beneath their feet. Engines roared above the trees, and black ships hovered like predators waiting for the kill. From their shadows came the hunters, elite soldiers in dark armor moving in perfect silence. Unlike the common guards, these warriors did not shout or fumble. Their steps were sharp, their weapons steady, their visors glowing with cold blue light. One voice echoed across the forest. Deep, calm, deadly. Illyrian girl, human fool, you cannot run. Your fate ends here. Daniel gripped his cutting tool tighter. His hands were sweating, but his eyes burned with defiance. Beside him, Lyra stood tall, though her body trembled with exhaustion. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, a spark waiting to ignite. The hunters raised their rifles as one. The air hummed with deadly energy. The hook begins. The first blast screamed through the forest. Daniel dove forward, pulling Lyra with him. The ground exploded where they had stood, sending dirt and fire into the air. The hunters closed in, silent, ruthless. Daniel's voice was sharp. We can't outrun them. We fight here. Lyra's breath shook. If I release the flame fully, I may not survive. He turned to her, his voice steady. Then let me stand with you. If this is our end, we end it together. Her eyes widened. For the first time, she saw no fear in him, only resolve. Slowly, she nodded, and the flame answered. Silver light burst from her body, spreading like fire across the cave walls. Her chains, still hanging from her wrists, shattered into dust. Her hair lifted in the glow, her eyes blazing brighter than the hunters' rifles. The soldiers fired again. Dozens of bolts screamed toward her, but the flame roared. The blasts bent in midair, twisting like rivers around rocks, before slamming back into the hunters. Armor cracked. Trees splintered. The forest burned with silver fire. Daniel shielded his eyes, stunned by the power. She was no longer the broken girl in chains. She was a storm, alive and unchained. The hunters did not retreat. They moved in closer, spreading out, their leader stepping forward. His armor gleamed black as night. His voice was cold. Your power means nothing. We have slain Illyrians before. We will slay you now. He raised his weapon, a blade of dark energy. The others followed, circling them. Daniel stepped in front of Lyra, even as the light of the flame shook the ground. If you want her, you'll have to get through me. The hunter leader tilted his head. So be it. The battle exploded. Daniel fought with raw desperation, slashing with his tool, blocking blows, dodging strikes. He was only human, but he moved with fire in his heart. Each swing was not for himself, but for her. Lyra unleashed wave after wave of silver energy. The forest lit up like a second sunrise. Hunters were thrown into the air, their armor cracking under the force. Yet with every strike, her body weakened. Her knees shook. Her breaths grew shallow. Daniel saw it. Don't burn yourself out, he shouted. Her voice was strained. If I hold back, we die, the leader charged. His blade cut through Daniel's tool, shattering it. Sparks flew. Daniel stumbled back, defenseless. The hunter raised his weapon for the killing blow, but Lyra screamed. The flame erupted from her in a storm of pure light. The ground split. The trees bent away. The hunters were hurled backward, their armor melting in the heat. Only the leader remained standing, his blade shaking in his hand. Daniel forced himself up, blood on his face, and grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle. He aimed it at the leader. "End this," he growled. The leader's visor flickered. For the first time, hesitation showed. Then he lunged. A final blast of silver fire consumed him, tearing his blade apart and sending him crashing into the dirt, motionless, defeated. Silence followed. The ships above pulled back slowly as if afraid. The forest smoldered, glowing with the scars of battle. Daniel lowered the rifle, his chest heaving. He turned to Lyra, and his heart sank. She had fallen to her knees, her glow fading. Her hands trembled, her body weak. "Lyra." He caught her before she collapsed fully. "Stay with me." Her silver eyes flickered, soft now, almost human again. "The flame. It takes too much. I cannot." Daniel shook his head, tears burning in his eyes. "No, you're not dying here. Not after all this. Not after I found you." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "You risked everything. For me. And I'd do it again," he whispered. For a long moment, neither spoke. The forest was quiet except for the crackle of burning trees. The Empire had retreated for now. Finally, Lyra's glow steadied. She coughed, but her eyes opened stronger. The flame had not taken her yet. She breathed, whispering, "We won." "This battle," Daniel smiled weakly. "Then we'll win the next one, too." He helped her to her feet. Together they stood among the ruins, broken, bloodied, but alive. As dawn rose over the horizon, the two walked into the unknown. The Empire would come again. The hunters would return. But now, Lyra was no longer alone, and Daniel was no longer just a traitor. They were fugitives, survivors, partners, one human and one alien girl, ready to face a galaxy that feared them both. Because sometimes, one act of courage is enough to shake an empire.